The site of last year's All-Star game, Minute Maid Park in Houston, Texas. The Dodgers are playing the Astros today. And for the Houston Astros, it has been quite a turnaround. You go back a month, they were dead last in the NL Central. No, they're probably not going to catch the Cardinals, but they have gone from 6th to 2nd in short order. For the LA Dodgers, well, they're close to 2nd, not quite as close to 1st, but they are struggling right now at 40 and 46. Welcome to Houston, along with Steve Lyons. I'm Josh Lewin. It is a chance for the Houston Astros to get on out there and prove that they are worthy, Steve, of playoff consideration. Morgan Ensberg, all-star consideration, I guess just wasn't there.
Yeah, I mean, this is amazing. The guy leads all third basemen in home runs this season.
The LA Dodgers, it's an interesting look right now. It's a young look, no doubt about it, and Roy Oswalt faces that look today.
Boy, it's going to be a feast for Oswalt out there. He's facing a very young, inexperienced lineup. Oswalt with 11 wins on the season, going to his first All-Star game. He's 8-1 at home with an ERA of 2, which is amazing pitching in this ballpark. That just shows you how tough he is.
Oswalt, an All-Star. Brad Lidge, and he's
down, back and forth, absolutely knows how to pitch, and this very young starting pitcher has a great idea what to do on the mound.
I noticed you put Giddy up in there in the scouting report.
Oh, that's for your home state of Texas here. He's got some giddy up on that fastball.
Steve Lyons' homage to the Lone Star State. We are underway. Strike one, according to Randy Marsh. The LA Dodgers, the skeletal remains of the LA Dodgers psycho, 40 and 46. They are just missing so much right now, and you feel for manager Jim Tracy.
Yeah, and Jim Tracy has done really a masterful job putting the lineup out there and getting the most out of the players that he has in his lineup right now. 16 guys on the DL. That leads all of Major League Baseball, tied with Washington.
Washington, though, has stayed hot. The Dodgers have cooled considerably.
Yeah, and I think especially for Washington, a lot of the guys that they have had on the DL, and not to disrespect the guys that are on the DL for them, but they haven't been the key members of the team like the Dodgers. Talking about guys like J.D. Drew and Milton Bradley and players like that are supposed to be in the middle of your lineup. Eric Gagne out for the season. Kelly Wunsch hurt himself, who was the left-handed specialist out of the bullpen. Coming into a game in Colorado, he's going to have surgery on his foot that will keep him out now for the rest of the season.
That one right there, Psycho, or Steve, may be the other compelling metaphor. I mean, you talk about Kelly Wunsch coming on in relief in Colorado, throwing his final warm-up pitch, tearing his ankle, and being out for the year. If you could tidily sum up how it's gone for the LA Dodgers, I would say that's it, with a bow around it right there.
We talked about it in last night's ball game. It's like the guys are worried about slipping and falling when they get out of the shower these days.
Punched into right field by Robles. He's got a base hit. Although I tell you what, Palmeiro came up like he was going to try to throw him out at first. Now, with all the injuries, the young guys get an opportunity. Oscar Robles making the most. He is 12 for his last 24. State Farm covers the field for you today to see how the Astros get out there on defense. Here you go. And not sure that is correct, quite honestly. That looked like last night's lineup up there. That is Mike Lamb playing first base, and Berkman is in left. So our apologies. That needs an update. Tavares is in center. Palmeiro's in right. And it is Brad Ausmus doing the catching. Usually he is the man in there for Roy Oswalt. What a pleasure it must be to catch Roy Oswalt. Obviously, Brad Ausmus, Steve, has worked with a lot of quality in a 12-year Major League career. He says Oswalt is right up there.
And Oswalt's basically a two-pitch pitcher.
Repko bloops it. Lamb won't catch it. Simply a foul ball.
But it was sort of like the way they used to talk about Randy Johnson being a two-pitch pitcher, a fastball and a slider. Oswalt fastball and a curveball, but the variations in that fastball. His fastball has such electric movement. He can sink it. He four seams it up in the strike zone. As we talked about before, he's mid-90s with it. He can take something off a little bit and kind of throw what they call a dead fish fastball, but that runs up there at about 90. And then his curveball is a big looping, hard breaking curveball that he throws at about 70 miles an hour. So he's really a master of changing speeds.
Jason Repko takes inside. If Oswalt gets through 2 innings and no earned runs allowed today, his career ERA, Steve, will be under 3. As it is, he's 3rd best in career ERA among active starting pitchers. That pitch is a good example of why.
Hey, Repko taking a look back saying, why, I know it's my rookie year, but I haven't seen a whole lot of that kind of stuff coming at me.
We have taken the white out to the State Farm defense and reconfigured it for you. That is the correct look now. Berkman, Tavares, and Palmeiro in the outfield. Craig Biggio, of course, back at second base this year. That's where Jeff Kent had played the last couple of years. And now Jeff Kent will step up to the plate. He was solid as a Houston Astro. No question about it. Last night got his 2000th career base hit, and he was proud to get it off the Rocket Man, Roger Clemens.
Of course, with Kent, you generally have to work middle away from him.
That ball got enough of the plate. Kent is able to bop it into center for career hit number 2001. You know, the last swing that he ever took in this ballpark as an Astro, Steve, was probably his best swing. That was the game-winning walk-off home run in the NLCS against St. Louis.
That was a pretty good swing right there, too. Not the exact same result, but a nice base hit up the middle. Kind of has a habit of doing stuff like that. I remember the last few swings that he ever took as a Giant. And then Pac-Bell. He had 2 home runs and a double in Game 5 of the World Series.
Now we begin the parade of the Jasons as Kent is on first, and you've got Robles at second. You've got Jason Worth, Jason Phillips, Jason Repko, Jason Grabowski all in the lineup today. The Dodgers are not leading the league in anything, but they are leading the league in Jasons.
If a ball gets hit to the outfield, you can be pretty sure Jason's going to catch it.
Jason Worth in a limited sample size, Steve, 3 for 3 against Oswalt, so a pretty good candidate to be batting cleanup this afternoon.
Well, that shows you what Jim Tracy's had to do with his lineup in last night's ball game against Roger Clemens. Jason Phillips hit cleanup, and it was mainly because he had had 2 hits off of Clemens, and you're just kind of drawing names out of a hat to try to come up with a lineup and find 9 healthy guys to go out there and play.
That pitch didn't miss by much, 2-2. As we say, though, the injuries do lead to opportunities for guys that maybe otherwise wouldn't get them. But if you're Jim Tracy, you're simply trying to win ball games. You're not trying to manufacture opportunities.
And they're only 6.5 games back in the West, which is a weak division this year in the National League. And you can get into the All-Star break and maybe get a few guys back, get some of the guys back into the lineup. You really find out how deep your ball club is for later on in the season.
That's why it's so tough to gauge if these guys are going to be or should be buyers or sellers. That division, you're right, Steve, is so weak. Were it not for San Diego's 22 in May, the entire NL West would be under 500. 6.5 games out of first right now. Rip and a miss. Wow. Straight heat. And Jason Worth is out of there.
Well, this is what we were talking about, the kind of electric fastball that Oswalt has. That's just flat out country heat right there, up and away on the outer half of the plate, and Worth just can't catch up with it. Boy, it's nice when you can reach back and blow someone away just when you feel like it.
Jason Phillips up in the count, 1-0. Now the Dodgers, it's tough to remember this, but they actually began the year 12-2 and 20-12, as a matter of fact. But since then, 20-34, following 20-12.
That's been real tough, and as you mentioned, with the injury to Kelly once last night in the last night's ball game, they had an excellent opportunity to actually beat Roger Clemens. We showed you in the opening of the show the Morgan Ensberg double in the ninth to drive home Willie Taveras, and that won the game for the Houston Astros. But now the Dodgers have no left-handers in their bullpen. Jim Tracy would have shifted Berkman to the other side of the plate. Instead, he got a base hit to keep things going. Changed the complexion of the ball game. Jim Tracy a little bit hamstrung as far as being able to use different pitchers out of the bullpen when he has no lefties to come in right now and face anybody.
Phillips taking in too snug, and in the other dugout you've got a guy that can certainly relate to what Jim Tracy is going through. Phil Garner struggled through some tough times when he managed in Milwaukee and Detroit, and when he first took over this Houston team. Phil Garner briefly played for the Dodgers. Most memorable thing that probably happened to Phil as a Dodger, he got into a scrap with Mike Marshall. On the field, not a lot happened. He hit 190. Dropped at second base. Biggio has time to recover, though. And a long top of the first yields nothing for LA.
And it would stand to reason that in your losses your ERA would be higher, but in his 7 losses, 7.24. That's a ridiculously large disparity in the numbers.
I never saw Jim Bunning pitch live and in person. I'm too young for that, but a lot of the scouts say that Weaver reminds him a lot of the way Jim Bunning used to go at it. Same delivery, same mechanics, same stuff. Different hair, and he probably will never be in the U.S. Senate.
I doubt it. I think Hall of Fame broadcaster for the Dodgers, Vin Scully, put it best in Weaver's last start. He said he's like the girl with the curl in the middle of her forehead. When she's good, she's very good. And when she's bad, not so good.
I always thought that had a different ending.
Yeah, it does.
All right. 1-2 the count to Willie Taveras. And he's gone. Jeff Weaver begins with a strikeout. Let's check the rest of the lineup for the Astros following Willie Taveras. The lineup brought to you by Taco Bell. The guy that I guess you can call Mr. Astro, Craig Biggio, follows Taveras, and it's Berkman and Ensberg. Every year there's going to be all-star snubbery. You're going to talk about guys that were snubbed. Ensberg certainly was. Mike Lamb, Orlando Palmeiro, Vizcaíno, Ausmus, and Oswalt at the bottom of the order for Phil Garner. Now, Craig Biggio, who is a 7-time All-Star, he doesn't feel like he's been snubbed. He's having a solid year, 25 doubles, 13 home runs, but he knows there are other guys, younger guys, that are also having good years.
And not only that, his counterpart in this ball game, Jeff Kent, with 15 homers and 60 RBIs for the Dodgers. He's your all-star starter this year for the National League and deserves to be so.
Shockingly, that inside pitch failed to hit Craig Biggio.
How did he let it miss him?
I don't know. Now the all-time Major League leader in getting plunked.
Yeah, the thing that amazes me about that, and Biggio has been on the DL at different times in his career, but he's been hit 268 times in his career and has never been on the DL because of being hit by a baseball.
Biggio socks one into left center. Whoa, and the center fielder, Jason Repko, among the Jasons roaming the outfield. 3 Jasons, no waiting out there. State Farm covers the field. And here is how the Dodgers get after it. Remember Gene Rayburn and Joker's Wild Joker. Joker is Jason, Grabowski, Repko, and Worth. Edwards, Robles, Kent, and Choi in the infield. And Robles, one of those guys that we talk about that can play other places besides shortstop. Antonio Perez has been kind of like that. You can mix and match in various places. Mike Edwards is a fellow like that.
Dodgers are very happy with the way Oscar Robles has played for them since they called him up. He was playing in the Mexican leagues, hitting about 382 when they got him back. Got off to a slow start, but since he's gotten more consistent playing time because of his Torres' injury, he has been outstanding. Great leadoff type hitter, sees a lot of pitches. You saw in his first at-bat, fouled off a lot of Oswalt's offerings, and then drilled the line drive. And as you said, he's 12 for his last 24, really coming into his own.
Berkman swings up and over one that zigzags in from Jeff Weaver.
Weaver's going to come right at you. This is the slider. Down and in. Tough pitch for a left-hander to hit. You don't want to leave that pitch out over the middle of the plate, because then it's a little bit easier. But you get that in a good location. Very, very difficult to hit.
Jeff Weaver, who grew up a Dodger fan, says he went to about 25 games a year as a kid. Says he was one of those kids clamoring for a bat all the time. Berkman walks. Ensberg coming up. And Morgan Ensberg, last night's hero, the game-winning bottom of the ninth double after they walked Berkman intentionally to get to Morgan Ensberg. That's 3 walk-off hits in the last 3.5 weeks for Ensberg, Steve. He had had none in about his first 400 games in the big leagues. Now they're dropping like rain.
You talk about those California type surfer dudes like Weaver. Ensberg's one of those too. Grew up in Hermosa Beach, California, still lives in Manhattan Beach. He's a great guy to talk to about hitting. He said last year, he goes, I struggled because I widened out so much. I went back to my old high school stance this year where I'm standing a little straighter. As you look at the numbers in his rankings, just having a tremendous year. How he's not an all-star, everybody wants to know. He said, I got my power back because I'm standing up straighter. And he said the most interesting thing. He said, the key to my season right now is swing hard. It's important for me to swing the bat as hard as I can.
Gary Gaetti, his hitting coach, pretty much echoing that, saying last year he was content to be a contact hitter. He'd hit you some singles. And Gaetti's told him, you know, with your power, you should be looking to drive the ball.
Well, he hit 9 home runs all of last year. He's got 23 this year.
He had none last year. On July the 1st, he had to get hot to finish with what he had last year.
There's Gary Gaetti, the hitting coach here in Houston. But, you know, when you talk to guys, and especially a guy like Ensberg, who, you know, he has flat out said, he goes, when I'm going well, I don't know what I'm hitting. Guys will come in, they'll ask me, hey, was that a slider? And he's like, I don't know. It just came in there and I whacked it. So he's one of those kind of no brain, no headache type guys with his approach.
Well, you talked about Weaver, too, that kind of laid back off the field. What'd you say, surfer dude mentality? Yeah. So we have the battle of the Spicolis here.
And there's a few of them.
Weaver against Ensberg. High drive into center. And Jason Repko will make the catch. The Astros do not score. End of 1 on Fox. If you have an opinion on who you think will be the All-Star Game MVP, go to foxsports.com, keyword Chevy, or MLB.com to vote for your chance to win trips, gear, and even a car in the 9-and-9 sweepstakes presented by Chevrolet. Aesop Choi cuts it 1, lines it foul. We are scoreless in the second inning here in Houston, the Dodgers and the Astros. I don't know if here in Texas, Steve, everyone's familiar with the term rolling blackout, but Aesop Choi is experiencing one right now. The power outage has come in. It will assumably move out eventually. But, man, where has all the power gone for Aesop Choi?
The outage of almost everything, Josh. I mean, here you're talking about a guy who, in mid-June, from the 10th to the 12th, hit 6 home runs in 3 days. He hit 1 against Minnesota on a Friday night, hit 2 on a Friday night, hit 1 on a Saturday, and then Sunday hit 3 home runs. And then since that period of time, you look at the numbers of the last 19 games are ugly. But since June 16th, he's hitting 128, 6 for 47 with no home runs and just 2 RBIs in that span.
And the heck of it is, he is in the home run derby. in a couple of days, so it would be a real good time right now to reacquire that home run stroke.
The War of the Worlds home run hitting contest.
He will represent Korea. And he's not actually playing in the All-Star game. He has actually just been invited to participate in that home run derby.
Well, I think that's got to be a great thrill for him anyway, to get that opportunity, and it's such a nice event.
That would not get out in Detroit. That'll be caught in left field by Berkman. Yeah, 8 different nations will be represented in the home run derby. And I mean, it's certainly not the Olympics. In the Olympics, I don't know if the smart money's on Curacao, but it might be in the home run derby because Andrew Jones will be doing that.
Talk about a guy on fire.
Yeah, Jones will surge into that home run derby. As for the actual All-Star game, which of course you'll see on Fox on Tuesday night, Mike Edwards takes a strike here. A lot of first-timers going, Steve. Roy Oswalt among them.
It's always good to see, and a lot of the old guard of perennial All-Stars even has a lot of those guys have been quoted as saying, hey, it's great to see the new young group of core talent in Major League Baseball and the future stars.
In all, 20 first-time All-Stars, and you think of the guys that are not going, the Bonzes and Griffeys and Maddoxes, guys that you
Sosa.
that you just wrote in every year. That one inside to Edwards, 2-2.
Well, I think it really says a lot about the responsibility of the fans that they have taken on to vote the right players into the game. I mean, I always had the contention that if Johnny Bench's name was still on the ballot, he'd make it.
Oswalt with a very nice pitch that Mike Edwards couldn't handle. Down and away, and 2 away. Time for the Burger King Have It Your Way home field advantage. Now, of course, at Old Tiger Stadium, and when they first got Comerica Park built, they had the in-play flagpole to deal with in Detroit. With the new dimensions in Detroit, that flagpole is no longer something you can ram yourself into. But here in Houston, you can do that.
Well, that's if you can run all the way up Towles Hill to get there.
What's amazing about this ballpark, well, among many things that are odd, but I mean, you could hit conceivably, Steve, you could hit the top of that flagpole. You could hit it 640 feet and get a double.
And the center fielder who was chasing it could run all the way up that hill and hit his head right on the pole.
1-2 to Grabowski, and the breaking ball hammered to first. Roy Oswalt now has a career ERA of under 3. That's good stuff. Fox Saturday Baseball brought to you by Budweiser, the bright color and crisp, clean taste you'll only find in the king of beers. Jeff Weaver back up on the mound. The Dodgers and the Astros having at it today. The Dodgers are struggling, but the Astros are hot. So the intersection of hot and cold for you on Fox today. Houston started the year icy. We talked about it, Steve, 15 and 30 at one point. Mike Lamb, the LA native, fouling one here. But for Houston, pretty much they are winning with pitching and defense. That is born out of necessity. The offense has been rough.
It's amazing during that period of time that you talked about where they're the second best record in all of baseball. They're also last in Major League Baseball in team average and 28th in runs scored.
Mike Lamb to center. Oh, it kind of knuckled in there on Jason Repko, but he was able to go down and grab it.
Well, Jason Repko has struggled with this, but he's quickly making a reputation for himself as one of the best outfielders in all of baseball. And this is a kid that wasn't supposed to make the club, made it out of, as you said before, necessity because of the injury to Jason Worth at the beginning of the season. This ball knuckled on him, checked up on him in the air a little bit, and he had to adjust and come back and make the play. Now, that kid has a gun out there, one of the best arms I've seen.
Orlando Palmeiro drives it to right field. That ball is gone, and Houston is on top.
Orlando Palmeiro making the start today, normally a pinch hitter, and in my opinion it's kind of a mistake to try to get ahead with a first pitch fastball to a pinch hitter, because those guys come up there hacking. That's just a nothing sinker that doesn't sink, stays out all over the middle of the plate, and Palmeiro goes up there and has his 3rd home run of the season.
Vizcaíno puts it in play right away, and he will be the 2nd out of the inning. Orlando Palmeiro, Steve, no relation to Rafael Palmeiro. Rafi's got 563 career home runs now. Orlando's got 12.
Yeah, he'll take all of them, though. But, you know, the mentality, Josh, of pinch hitters, they don't get that many at-bats, so they go up there looking for the first good pitch they see. They're going to be swinging. No reason to be taking pitches. That's the mentality that you walk up to the plate with. And, he found one he liked there and put a charge into it.
Brad Ausmus takes, and he's up in the count 1-0. Both Orlando and Rafael Palmeiro say that somewhere in somebody's media guide it once says that they are cousins, and that's news to both of them.
Well, someone else was doing some better research than they've been doing, I guess. Or just lying.
Or you 1-1 to Ausmus.
Come on, some of the stuff in media guides, I mean, you never have to let the truth stand in the way of a good story, right?
Did you ever make stuff up on your questionnaires or no?
Yeah, see, that's the thing, is some guys, you know, I never did that because no one ever asked me anything.
I know Steve Sparks used to do that all the time. He put in there that he likes show tunes and stuff like that. Weaver with the underhand toss. Now the Astros have grabbed a 1-0 lead. Jeff Weaver giving up a home run to Orlando Palmeiro. And now Jeff Weaver swings the bat, something he's actually done very well this year. He's hitting close to 250. He was a DH in college when he didn't pitch. We're going to talk a little pitching right now. Jim Colburn, the pitching coach of the Dodgers, taking a moment. And Jim, thank you very much. What are your thoughts about Jeff Weaver and how he's looking so far?
He looks very good. Of course, they both look pretty darn good. Those are 2 good pitchers in the National League. The people out there that are seeing this game can really study pitching at its finest today.
Colby, when you look at Jeff Weaver and the number of quality starts he's had for this team, he's struggled with run production and getting some help. But how do you know how quickly whether or not he's going to have his good stuff?
Well, I can tell usually in his bullpens between starts, and then you can tell when he's warming up in the bullpen. You can see that if he's locked into his delivery, then he's a veteran pitcher, so it usually sticks a while. He'll get in long periods of having his delivery be real sound.
Jim, real quick, and I shudder to even approach any of you guys on this topic because I know it's been done to death, but with all the injuries, I mean,
what injuries?
Well, there's 16 of them.
Where?
On your team.
Oh, we've had an injury?
Yeah, or 2, or 16. How you
it's just like somebody telling you to play with green uniforms. You just go out and play with green uniforms. We're playing without 16 players. We go out and play without 16 players. You still got to win. And you can still be proud of your efforts, and you can still consider yourself a champion if you've made the good efforts and concentrated during the game and tried your best to win.
That's exactly where I was going with that. Thank you very much, Jim. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
All right. Jim Colburn, pitching coach, trying to always look on the right side of life.
And that's one of the things that the Dodgers, the type of attitude that they've had. We had a long discussion this morning with Jim Tracy about, you know, when you're sitting there as a manager, what's the first thought in your mind? Is it a guy's career and the longevity of his career and how it'll affect an organization, or whether or not you need somebody to help you win right now? And we were talking specifically about the fact that the Dodgers don't have a lefty in their bullpen, and if they had one last night, the game outcome could have been quite a bit different. They were leading that ball game 2-1. They could have won the game. Maybe if they had an effective left-hander to switch Berkman over to the other side so they didn't have to walk him to get to Ensberg. And Jim Tracy, maybe more than any other manager I've ever been around, takes more into consideration whether or not the guy that you bring up and put in that left-handed role can handle that role or will be damaged by doing it if that's not the role he's accustomed to.
Yeah, you can't just all of a sudden be Jesse Orozco just because you have that need, I guess is where Jim Tracy is with that.
And they have a few guys down there. Derek Thompson's been a guy who's been up and down and has been a starter. That's why they don't want to put him in a relief role. And they also have Mike Venefro, who hasn't really thrown the ball all that well, and that's why they haven't brought him up. But there are very few managers. And I got to tell you, if I was a manager, it would be hard for me to sit there and say, yeah, but I need someone right now that can help me win a ball game like in last night's situation, rather than really worry about whether this kid's ever thrown in relief before or not. And Jim Tracy, that's what he's about.
Roy Oswalt is about the strikeout. He's retired 8 Dodgers in a row. It's still 1-0. Welcome to the Pepsid Power Hitters Home Run Leaderboard. Pepsid complete, just 1 and a heartburn's done. Andrew Jones headed to the All-Star game, of course. You saw Morgan Ensberg 3rd on the list. He is not going to the All-Star game. A lot of talk about that, obviously, here locally in Houston. Roy Oswalt at the plate is going to the All-Star game, but it has nothing to do with how he swung the stick.
What's wrong with hitting a $139?
Nothing. How many years did you do that? 7?
Every year. I was talking to Jeff Bagwell before the game. And, of course, you know, he had the surgery and everything, but he's now starting to swing the bat a little bit. And I said, well, are you hitting off a tee? Or are you swinging? Are you hitting any baseballs? He said, no, I'm taking dry swings. And I'm like, and how is that any different than what I did my whole career? I took a lot of dry swings in games.
Just because Roy Oswalt is the pitcher and just because he's hitting a $139, Jeff Weaver, though, still has to be concerned because he, incredibly, Steve, has allowed 3 home runs to pitchers this year. No one's given up 4 to a pitcher or pitchers in a season since 1972. And that will not be the 4th he gives up here to a pitcher. Oswalt is done. Tavares coming up, top of the order. And Steve, we've talked about the Astros starting it very sluggishly, but coming on since then. They've won 27 out of 40. Roger Clemens continues to be the feel-good story, not only here in Houston, but maybe all around baseball. At the age of 42, doing some incredible things. Yeah, Craig Biggio gets hit by a bunch of pitches. Morgan Ensberg should be in the All-Star game, yada, yada. Jeff Bagwell, as you mentioned, out for the season.
This is a kid that's really helped him out at the top of their order, too. Tavares is a guy who his last 12 games hit better than 370. Has started to figure out what it takes to be a big league hitter. And he knows now that his game starts when he gets on first base. I mean, a couple of seasons ago, he stole 57 bases. Got 22 stolen bases so far this year in the big leagues.
When the Astros failed to re-sign Carlos Beltran, it dawned on Tavares those are some big shoes to step into. Actually, right now, Tavares is hitting about 25 or 30 points higher than Beltran.
Yeah, outside the power numbers, he's having a better year.
Scoring more runs, better on base percentage, more steals. Who knew? Weaver with a long underhand toss. Now we've recapped the first half for the Astros, Steve. How about the Dodgers? Remember, they started very well. They were 12-2. They were 16-8. But the injuries, even though, yes, Jim Colburn is trying to look on the bright side of life, there have been some key injuries.
Yeah, this key injury thing, you could put plus 10 other guys.
Jeff Kent, though, is a ray of sunshine. Well, in some ways. he's going to the All-Star game. Biggio bloops one. He's got a base hit. And Kent will usher it back in. While we're on the subject of Jeff Kent, obviously here in Houston, it's nice to see him smile. He is a very intense individual, and Houston fans got to know that. He is not exactly Tommy Lasorda in the outward nature the flamboyance, the hey, how you doing, come talk to me.
Yeah, very private, very intense guy. Now, he said many times that his greatest release and the thing he has the most fun doing is motocross. But he said, hey, on the other hand, I've dedicated my life to this game of baseball. No one works harder or shows up with the intensity that Jeff Kent does. He's just not a real touchy-feely, personable kind of guy.
Well, he's very focused. You know, he refuses to talk to the opposition or to the media. And the way he puts it, he says, when someone walks into your house, they get it dirty. They might not mean to, but they do. And I'm trying to keep my mind, my house, clean before the party starts.
This is a guy that's been battling a hamstring injury. Missed a couple of games in Colorado before the Dodgers came here to start this series against the Astros. Kent knew that Roger Clemens was going to be on the mound last night. Went into Jim Tracy's office the day before they got here, and he said, I'm in the lineup tomorrow. He had to leave last night's ball game late in the game because of that hamstring, and if his hamstring is fine, he catches that ball that Biggio just dropped in there for a base hit.
You mentioned Jeff Kent's affinity for motocross. He also is a big-time ranch guy. He's got a huge ranch here in Texas. And he speaks of, and he doesn't speak very often, but when he does speak, he speaks of the cowboy way.
Well, he's got two sons named Hunter and Colton.
That's cowboy way.
Names.
Riding on the range. He's got his hat on.
Yeah, exactly. And got his boots. Dusty. And it's the funniest thing because we already talked about the Houston guys like Ensberg and Osmus that are big surfers in the offseason. Kent is a Southern California kid, but he's a Texas Ranger. These guys need to flip-flop some stuff here.
Everybody wants something they're not, apparently. Inside corner, lands. Fox Saturday Baseball brought to you by Pepsi. It's the Cola. By Goodyear Forterra, tough on the outside, soft on the inside. And by XM Satellite Radio with live play-by-play of Major League Baseball games for every team all season long. Roy Oswalt, so far a 2-hit shutout. He will face off against Jeff Kent, his former teammate. And a foul ball. Moments ago, we talked to Jim Hickey, the pitching coach for the Astros, and let's listen in. Roy Oswalt on the mound and doing the Roy Oswalt thing so far. He's had a great year, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's had a great first half. Hopefully he keeps this thing up, and I think that he will. You know, over his last 5 or 6 ball games, he's done a great job of using his fastball more, getting ahead in the count, and, you know, being pretty efficient. A little bit over his goal as far as pitches goes right now, but I think he'll end up getting it straightened out.
Jim, you got a veteran staff there. How well have they handled the pressure of the fact that you've played very good baseball as of late, but still not scoring a lot of runs and not getting a lot of hits offensively?
Well, they've handled it just like they have from day number 1. You know, nothing's changed as far as they're concerned. They just go out and they do their job and give their team a chance to win. And, you know, we have started to score a few more runs, so things have turned around somewhat for us. But it really hasn't affected them. I'm really proud of the way they've handled it.
You get that FM radio job yet with that voice?
No, I didn't get that yet. I'm still looking for the FM radio, so maybe you guys can hook me up.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, thanks.
Jim's had such a great time with his role as the pitching coach on a great staff to work with. But, boy, last year during the playoffs, he kind of got his little star going. He became a little mini celebrity here in Houston doing those interviews during the playoffs against St. Louis and had a good time with it and really helped out.
Jason Worth blasting away. And shy of the track there is Tavares. Right now, here's Jeannie Zelasco. She's got a game break. Hello, Jeannie.
Hello, going to Baltimore. An AL East shutout. Edgar Renteria gets the Red Sox on the board. Singling home Trot Nixon, and everybody has one, although David Ortiz is looking for 3. Looks like it's gone, right? Guess again. Trot to the wall. Luis Matos up and over. Grab it. Still tie ball game. And, guys, looks like an all-star has fallen. We'll bring you an update shortly on the condition of Roy Halladay.
Now, thank you, Jeannie. Meantime, a balk has been called as we come back live. Jeff Kent finds himself down at second base, and Phil Garner is out to talk about what happened there. Phil Garner does not seem real pleased. Well, you've seen more of Jeff Kent's teeth in the last 10 minutes than they probably saw in 2 years here in Houston. A lot of smiles today from Jeff. See if we can pick it up here, Steve.
He goes into his stretch right there. He just didn't stop. I remember a few seasons ago they talked a lot about how they were going to make pitchers stop and have a pause, and that was about 5 or 6 seasons ago where they really cracked down on it. But Oswalt didn't. He almost was in a wind-up mode there. That brings Worth back to the plate, and we'll start over.
Yeah, this is simply a one-strike count now. The pitch counts, the result does not. So here's take 2. Jason Worth again hits one in the air. So yeah, while we were getting caught up, thanks to Jeannie, we had some chaos breaking out of here. Jason Worth was on his way back to the dugout. He assumed he could fly it out to center. He was told, nope, you're up there again.
It's a hitter's dream, isn't it?
Get a mulligan. And down on strikes, as it turns out. Oswalt has been tough. Now, if you've got an opinion on who you think will be the All-Star Game MVP, remember it was Alfonso Soriano here last year in Houston. You can go to foxsports.com, keyword Chevy, or MLB.com to vote for your chance to win trips and gear and even a car in the 9-and-9 sweepstakes presented by Chevrolet. I have a feeling Worth enjoyed the long flyout better than the called third strike. The result is the same. He's still out.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, you talk about a pitcher bearing down in a situation that could have gone south for you. I mean, you got a guy on second base with nobody out. Maybe you get him over to third. Then you just come back and bear down and blow the guy away.
0-2 the count meantime to Phillips.
This was Worth after the supposed flyout. They called a balk. Oswalt saying, what? You're going to bring him back? And he said, well, what the heck? Why don't I just strike him out instead?
Lyons shot foul by Phillips.
Well, somebody made the play down there. Boy, that's always such a dangerous situation when you see a bullet go into the stands. You're hoping it hits an empty seat. Guys are able to not take that big bite of the hot dog and get themselves out of the way.
One ball, 2 strikes now. Boy, the Dodgers picked the wrong year to remove the last names from these jerseys, Steve. you got all these guys running in and out of the lineup. And it is literally a year where you can't tell the players without buying that scorecard.
Well, Frank and Jamie McCourt, who now own the Dodgers, really certainly had their heart in the right place with the move. Frank McCourt decided that he wanted to go back to a traditional style uniform and bring the tradition of the Dodgers back a little more wholeheartedly, and thought it was more important what the name said on the front of the jersey than on the back.
On the ground to short. Kent to third, and the tag going by. Mike Lamb had to come off the bag. He was not Mr. October. He was known as Mr. B&B. Mr. Bread and Butter is what Reggie called himself in the early 70s.
He's one of those guys that changed his name a lot.
He stopped Choi with a drive into right center field. That ball is up against the wall. The Dodgers have tied the game. And Choi rumbling towards third. Here comes the throw. Choi has a triple. And as he gets ready for the home run derby in a couple of days, we talked about it, Steve, needing to regain the power stroke. No, it's not a home run. It is a rare triple for Choi.
And this is one of the few places where it wouldn't be a home run into that corner, but Detroit's a pretty big yard too. But this is a breaking ball that Choi just adjusts. You see the little hesitation in his swing right there, and then hits it to the biggest part of the ballpark where not too many guys can run that down. Kent's going to score easily, and because of where it's hit, Choi hustles all the way into third base and gets a triple.
The second of his big league career, no less. This guy, makes it. Fox Saturday Baseball brought to you by Chevy. The new Chevrolet is an American revolution. Here in Houston, the site of last year's All-Star game. He's Sop Choi, who is headed there just to participate in the Home Run Derby. He'll be in Detroit on Monday. He's helped to tie this thing with a triple. And now Morgan Ensberg against Jeff Weaver. Dreamweaver. Jeff Weaver actually met the singer/writer of that song in Anaheim a few years ago, Steve. Gary Wright is a baseball fan, and he actually invited Jeff Dreamweaver to hang with him. Gary Wright had 2 hits. Jeff Weaver has allowed 2 hits today.
What was the other hit?
What was that other one? I swear
Single up the middle?
No, I know. Love is alive. And you're wrong about single up the middle, because Weaver's able to go and grab this. You've got 1 down, and Morgan Ensberg, the USC product. We thought we'd flash you back a little bit. Jason Lane went there too. They followed each other in the batting order. They lockered next to each other, and now it's the same thing all over again here in Houston. Jason Lane had a huge College World Series. That was a 21-14 game at the end, by the way, that title game against Arizona State. A steal at home for Ensberg. Very exciting.
Jason Lane took a lot tougher route getting to the big leagues. He was a guy who pitched at USC as well, always wanted to be a hitter. Finally hurt himself, so he couldn't pitch as much and developed as a hitter, but nobody really wanted him. Took him a long time just to get to USC. Nobody really wanted to offer him a scholarship, and banged his way through the minor leagues, finally getting up here and doing a nice job for this Astro team this year, getting a lot more playing time. 14 homers and 40 RBIs for Jason Lane this year, out of the lineup today.
Inside to another LA guy. There's so many LA guys in this game. Jeff Weaver on the mound. We've talked about Ensberg. Here's Mike Lamb.
Is Lamb a cowboy or a surfer?
He's neither. He was a teammate, though, high school teammate of the Rangers' Michael Young, who's having quite a year. On the ground, Dreamweaver is told to stay away. Sop Choi has got it.
You can tell how well both of these pitchers have gone about their business, because we've seen a lot of bouncers back to the mound and a lot of easy ground balls over towards first base. Guys getting out in front of the breaking balls and hitting weak grounders all day long.
Orlando Palmeiro, though, was able to jack one. Brad Lidge watched it go. Fox sounds of the game. Listen to Lidge. Lidge knew it. Now the bunt from Palmeiro. Down in the count 0-2, trying to follow the home run with the bunt single. Thanks to Brad Lidge for wearing the microphone today.
What a great kid and a tremendous talent he is. Had a little arm trouble for about the last week. Came in last night's ball game and shut it down. Ended up getting the win for the Astros.
Last year, 157 strikeouts, Steve. He did that in 95 innings. Boy, and he was lights out in the postseason, too. He was used game after game. He never wore down.
Well, when you're throwing your fastball 98 and then you have a slider that virtually breaks straight down, you're just unhittable sometimes.
Inside now to Palmeiro. By the way, I looked it up. My Love Is Alive got to number 3 on the charts in '76. So, Gary Wright, if you're listening, we know you had a second hit.
Well, considering I questioned it, I'm pretty sure he's not going to ask me to come and hang out with him.
No barbecue for you at the Gary Wright compound. This week in Major League Baseball history, July 6th, actually, 1933, Comiskey Park in Chicago hosted the very first Major League All-Star Game. America's Beer salutes America's pastime. Budweiser, proud sponsor of Major League Baseball.
I'm just happy that I actually had more hits than somebody.
But Gary Wright is not exactly apples to apples, though.
Come on. He had 2. I had more than that.
Bat goes flying. Dreamweaver. Tied at 1 as the 5th inning begins, and it begins with a foul from Jason Grabowski. Roy Oswalt is on the mound, and Roy Oswalt heading to the All-Star game, deservedly so. But his was the last suitcase on the truck heading to Detroit, though, Mr. Lyons. He was the 32nd man. There's a drive by Grabowski. And Tavares will grab it. Jeff Weaver comes up now, as Oswalt continues to perform the way he has performed really this entire year. Speaking of performing, for those of you too young to remember, Gary Wright. Close your eyes, it's 1976 again. That is the summer Jeff Weaver was born.
Gary Wright's making more money. Coming up for you next week on Cool FM.
Jeff Weaver, a guy that, as we've talked about, grew up in LA. Big-time Dodger fan. His brother now will be playing for the hated opposition, the Angels, after a long contract negotiation that basically took 12 months.
And basically ended up signing for one of the first offers that the Angels gave him.
Weaver punching it to right. Yeah, in reality, it wasn't really much of a negotiation. It was the Angels saying, here's what we're paying you. Scott Boras, Weaver's agent, saying, no, we want more. And then 12 months later, Weaver going, oh, okay.
Yeah, one of the first times that really had happened to a Scott Boras type client. Boras has been able to get almost everything he ever asked for all of his clients.
And it sounds like it was kind of against the advice of counsel that Jared Weaver said, hey, let's just get this done. Oscar Robles takes the strike, 0-1.
Boras also had another client, Stephen Drew, JD's brother, who was in the same situation with the Arizona Diamondbacks. And they both ended up having an 11th hour signing of offers that were offered to them far before the deadline that came up.
Robles is 2 for 3, and you're speaking of J.D. Drew. I too will speak of J.D. Drew. The WebMD health update focusing on J.D. The broken left wrist, that was against the Diamondbacks a week ago. Check your own symptoms at WebMD.com. The Dodgers, boy, I mean, we could have gone anywhere with this WebMD health update today. 16 different Dodgers have made their way to the DL this year.
Yeah, you know, you could have Gagne over here and J.D. Drew over here and Kelly Wunsch down here, and you know, there's a bunch of guys that were 16 of the guys on the DL with elbows and shoulders and feet and broken wrists and fingers and a lot of hurting going on.
Ironically, it was Milton Bradley, the toy maker, that made the game operation.
Yeah. And
that's pretty much what that dude looked like up there.
If you go on WebMD and just type in Dodgers, your computer will blow up.
Well, Milton Bradley, the ball player Milton Bradley, is certainly one of the guys the Dodgers miss.
He was just having a great season. Kind of a breakout year for a guy who's been called a 5-tool player.
Repko taking down and outside. We'll profile Jason Repko for you. Well, that's a long time to be playing the guitar. Hope he got a nap in.
Playing the guitar for a year. So what, he's learned like 2 chords so far. Can't even play any America tunes yet. Because you need at least 3 chords to do that, don't you? Horse with no name.
Mm-hmm. There's a foul back by Repko. There's always a lot of pop culture on the broadcast when you and I get together. Our apologies to America, but
Repko's, I mean, he's an interesting story. I mean, he played a couple years in the minor leagues with a broken back. Broke his back. It didn't heal right. The doctors basically told him, you're going to have to try to break it again. He spent half of a season trying to re-break his back so that it could heal properly. He said it's never going to be the same unless you break the other side of the vertebrae. And he said, well, go out there, run around, slide. He said he was doing weird stuff just to try to, he didn't really want to break his back, but he knew that it was beneficial to him if he did.
Dodgers and Astros tied at 1 on Fox today. Bottom of the 5th begins. Vizcaíno will take one ladled in for a strike from Jeff Weaver. That is a foul ball. Vizcaíno hobbled a bit by that.
I think he missed his shin guard. He's got the shin guard up on the shin, but this one catches the top of his knee. See if you can see where this thing hits him. Ouch. I don't know if you can have a shin guard all the way up there, can you? That's hard to do. Foul a ball off your right kneecap. That's a cut fastball that's bearing in on the hands. As soon as he swings it, he just catches the bottom side of the bat and then right off his kneecap. You got to move that shin guard right up in that area, and then he'll be all right.
Now a bloop shot towards right by Vizcaíno. One down, bottom of the 5th. We go to Jeannie Zelasco with another game break.
Well, how good is 40-year-old Rafael Palmeiro? Let me count the ways. 2.996, now 4 hits shy of 3,000. This one memorable. 3-run home run puts the Orioles up 4-1. And as promised, here is the word on Mr. Halladay. FoxSports.com's Ken Rosenthal telling us he'll miss the All-Star game and more. Like a month after that shot to the left shin last night in Texas, it is a small fracture. Blue Jays PR had no comment on Rosenthal's report. But by the way, guys, the plot thickens as Joe Buck reporting. Matt Clement had an extensive pregame meeting with his manager, who will be, of course, managing the All-Star game for the American League.
Very interesting. Thank you very much, Jeannie. I was there at that game last night when Kevin Mensch hit that one back up the middle. The crack of the bat was about equal to the crack of the body. I mean, you could tell something was not right there when that ball hit Roy Halladay. What was amazing is that Halladay rolled over, made the play, and then after about a minute of sitting on the mound, he got up, he walked off the field. And that led to some conjecture. Well, maybe it's just a contusion, and he's a tough guy. Maybe he'll be able to go in the All-Star game, but apparently not. Now one missing outside to Osmus. Meantime, the other news on Rafael Palmeiro, who, by the way, was only the latest in a series of Palmeiros to homer today. Orlando's already got one here. Well, Rafi getting close to 3,000. He's already got the 500-plus home runs. Another little looper. He stopped Choi. Will turn around and find it and grab it. Rafael Palmeiro, maybe one of the most underappreciated players, Stephen, in my opinion anyway. He never, I don't think, has ever been the best player on his own team. When he was with the Rangers, first time around you had Juan Gonzalez and Pudge Rodriguez. Second time around you had A-Rod. First time in Baltimore. He's there with Cal Ripken. Now he's there. It's Miguel Tejada, Sammy Sosa.
He's never been voted to an all-star team as a starter. I mean, it's amazing, too. I mean, there are people that question whether or not he has Hall of Fame status.
Well, he's
and
gonna,
those numbers just, I mean, how does he not?
besides the longevity, he's going to be one of 4 players in history with the 500 homers and 3,000 hits. If you're in a fraternity of 4, pretty much in anything, I would think that would stamp your ticket.
There are some doubters, which amazes me. And as we talked about before, even in this game with Craig Biggio's numbers, you know, now headed 50th all time in career hits.
Yeah, I'm amazed too that people don't automatically go, yeah, definitely Biggio, Hall of Fame guy. I mean, when you got more hits than Lou Gehrig, that's a pretty good start on your resume.
Franchise leader in games played, hits, runs, doubles. We talked about his active player numbers as they stand right now. I mean, he's 3rd in games, 3rd in hits, 2nd in runs for all active players, 1st in doubles, 5th in stolen bases. I mean, the numbers go on and on. You and I were talking before the game, and if you said, hey, best Astro of all time, a lot of people might point towards Bagwell because of the power numbers.
Oh, for the all-around game, it may well be Biggio. Dodgers 1, Astros 1. We are in Houston, right?
I took a wrong turn. Hey, he's a cheesehead no matter where he goes. I guess he's just showing some loyalty.
We're not too far from where Brett Favre grew up. And Roy Oswalt is a native of Mississippi, so I guess we can tie that in, maybe.
Oswalt's high school graduation class had like 39 people in it.
Jeff Kent, as we've discussed, is a California guy and now fashions himself a Texan. He played here for Houston for 2 years and said he really felt literally at home. But he was emotional, Steve, at the press conference when he was introduced as a Dodger. Maybe feeling some allegiance to Southern California after all.
I don't know, it's pretty emotional when you sign a 2-year, $19 million deal, too. That's a good gig.
Those are tears of joy. And Jeff Kent against Roy Oswalt is now 3 out of 3. Kent came back here yesterday and was hitting the ball well. 3 more hits off of Roy Oswalt. It's time for the Pepsi GoPro fan cam. Talk about Roy Oswalt.
I voted for Roy Oswalt 100 times online.
I voted for Roy Oswalt 20 times, and he's one of my favorite players.
I voted 5 times for Roy Oswalt.
You seem almost apologetic for not having stuffed the ballot box. If you think you're the ultimate baseball fan, watch the All-Star Game live on Fox. That is Tuesday at 8 Eastern, 7 Central. Get the password for your chance to win the Pepsi GoPro MLB Pass Sweepstakes. Pepsi, the official drink of Major League Baseball.
Osmond's going to come out and talk to Oswalt right now with Jeff Kent on first base. But this is a situation for the Dodgers once again where they needed to take advantage of what Kent has been able to do so far in this game. He's got 3 hits, been on every time he's been up there. Behind him, Worth has struck out twice, unable to move Kent at one point in the game. When Kent was on second base, was unable to get him to third. Jim Hickey checking out Oswalt. See if you see anything funny in this delivery. Ball just kind of got away from Oswalt, up and into Worth. He's fine.
We talked about the 4 Jasons in the lineup earlier for the Dodgers. Collectively, they are hitless. They are 0 for 9 with 5 strikeouts.
You have the 1 run by Palmeiro with the home run for the Astros.
That ball lifted into left center field. Berkman and Tavares. It's Tavares, the center fielder.
You talk about production and what's happened so far in this game. But the Dodgers have 6 hits off of Oswalt. He's seen an outstanding pitching performance from both Oswalt and Weaver. But the Dodgers have been unable to take advantage of anything they've been able to produce offensively. Just haven't been able to keep it together or string anything together. Now it's lack of production on the Dodgers' part, but it's also a matter of Oswalt really bearing down when he has to and getting the job done and having some really good at-bats when he has to come up big.
Here is Jason Phillips. And again, Tavares tested out again. He's got it. Roy Oswalt last year led the National League in wins with 20. He worked through a painful ribcage injury down the stretch to win 11 of his final 13 decisions last year. And he's been getting nothing but decisions one way or another this year, Steve. Decisions in all 18 of his starts and 22 in a row going back to last season.
That is an amazing number, how you can go out there 22 times in a row and not be involved in a no decision or come out of the game, you know, and have someone give it up or a tie ball game. That many decisions in a row is crazy. Of course, he's been on the winning end of it so many times. He's real happy about that. I mean, since the All-Star break of last season, basically a year ago, he's 23-10.
Our friend Mike Krukow had a season in 1987, I believe it was, 28 starts. He ended up 5-6. He had 17 no decisions that year. Oswalt, though, might be steering towards one today, 1-1.
We talked about him pitching here in Minute Maid Park too. This place is known as a hitter's haven. He's got the lowest career ERA and the highest winning percentage of any active player at home. It's just as mind-boggling when you think of where he pitches.
Yeah, or if you're, I mean, even if you're a lefty, you take just kind of a little half swing, you've got a shot at lobbing one up into the Crawford boxes in left field.
Jason Repko, he hit a throw over there, and Kent wasn't even off the base. And Kent's going nowhere. Everyone knows he's got the hamstring injury. There you go. Kent smiling again.
Like Saturday night at the Chuckle Hut with Jeff Kent today. We've seen more smiles from Jeff Kent today than probably in any other game. Well, I guess when you're 3 for 3, though, maybe you're in a better mood.
Well, look at his lead there.
If you can call it that.
He could literally fall over and be back on the bag. Well, Kent, we talked about it. He's got an injured leg. It's not going anywhere. Might even be difficult for him to go first to third on a base hit to the outfield.
There's one of those half swings by a lefty. It is not a home run. Choi is going to be safe, though. Ensberg unable to field it cleanly. It is 2 on, 2 out. And here is a chance for that big hit for the Dodgers coming up. That will be scored, an infield base hit.
Yeah, you know, Josh, and unless this took a funny little hop on Ensberg, I disagree with the way he went after it. A lot of times, infielders should only barehand the ball when it's do or die, and I don't think that really took a funny hop to his right, but he approached it a little awkwardly there at the end. There's no reason for him not to glove that ball.
Well, especially when you're mindful of who the runner is. I know Hesop Choi has a triple today, but I mean, he is not a guy that you think about getting down the line real quick.
I think the correct play there would have been to use your glove to make that play, make the transfer, and make the throw because of Choi's inability to get down the line all that quickly.
Now here's Mike Edwards now. Kent is that lead runner at second base. It is not a done deal here, Steve, I'd suggest to you, with 2 out, that he would score on a single with the way he's favoring that hamstring. Yes, he'll be running on contact, but he's not been running well.
Well, what Kent will do, and he'll show his ability to understand what the game is about, as you see him in your picture there. He will get a huge secondary lead as the pitch is thrown, so that he's almost halfway between second and third by the time the ball gets hit. You see him there. You'll see an enormous secondary lead so that he can get as big a jump as possible.
Way bigger lead at second than he ever thought about at first.
Well, the middle infielders aren't worried about him with 2 outs. They're trying to get an out here. Josh, was a great story about Mike Edwards in yesterday's ball game. This kid spent 10 years in the minor leagues. spent his whole career watching Roger Clemens pitch on TV. And the only thing he wanted to do was have an opportunity to face Clemens. And he jokingly said that if he wasn't in the lineup, he was going to walk into Jim Tracy's office, rip the lineup card up, and say, "Put me in." Got 2 hits off of Clemens in last night's ball game, and his eyes were as wide as saucers. I mean, you talk about some of the kids that are getting an opportunity to play for the Dodgers right now. Irregardless of whether or not they're winning any games, these guys are having the time of their lives, getting a chance to play at the major league level and playing fairly well.
Clemens, he got Oswald. Fox Saturday Baseball brought to you by WebMD, America's health site. By the makers of Pepcid Complete, just one and heartburn's done. By Paramount Pictures, the new film Bad News Bears, Friday, July 22nd in theaters. And by GMC Trucks and SUVs, we are professional grade. Top of the order in the bottom of the 6th in a 1-1 game here in Houston. Well, the Jeff Weaver slider. When it's on, it is good.
This is where Willie Taveras comes into play as a leadoff hitter, starting off the 6th. You're talking about a 1-1 game, becomes very valuable.
Dropping down the bunt, and Weaver firing to first. He got him at first. In a very close play.
It was a nice play by Weaver on a bunt that wasn't nicely executed by Taveras. He wants this much closer to the third base line, but he's got 17 bunt hits already. Weaver barehands that ball and guns it over to first to get him by half a step. He's got more bunt hits right now than anybody's ever had in a single season for the Astros. 17 of them. Almost got another one right there on a bunt that wasn't very well placed. Shows you what kind of speed he has.
Weaver bouncing off that mound to get Taveras. Here's Biggio. Speaking of bouncing, and Weaver, you know, he was a guest bouncer on the Jerry Springer show a few years ago. With that big bald guy, Steve. Might be the only current major league pitcher to have served as a bouncer on Springer. Weaver's old Tigers teammate Matt Anderson once stood up from the audience, actually asked a question today, Springer taping. Decorum prohibits us from repeating the subject matter of that show. I know we're on Fox, but still, I'm gonna hold to that. 3-0 the count. Weaver. No, 2. I'm sorry, that was a strike. Late strike call by Randy Marsh. 2-1.
And I'm going to keep my mouth shut on the topic of the Jerry Springer show because I like my job.
Now Biggio looping one, base hit left field. Top 50 all-time in hits in the major leagues. And, you know, we talked about it earlier, Steve. Mr. Astro might be Craig Biggio. Stan Musial, definitely Mr. Cardinal. All of his games in St. Louis. Mel Ott, Mr. Giant in New York. Ernie Banks, of course, Mr. Cub. The case can be made for Biggio as Mr. Astro here in Houston, Texas.
I think people forget that Biggio has finished in the top 5 of the MVP balloting a few times. This guy is just an all-around tremendous player. Started off as a catcher, was an all-star as a second baseman, played in the outfield, played everywhere they wanted him to, and in last night's ball game, dropped down 2 sacrifice bunts to put his team in position to win.
Lance Berkman, who grew up not too far from here, was a Biggio fan. That was a tantalizing off-speed pitch, and Berkman out in front.
76 miles an hour. We talked about both of these guys doing a great job of changing speeds. A little change up right there gets Berkman out on his front foot. You see the weight shift. Berkman just a little bit out this way, a little bit too far. Didn't keep the great balance that we generally see from him, especially as a left-handed hitter. Berkman had 3 hits in last night's ball game, all into the left center field gap.
Pegged, foul. The Astros have had very few hard-to-hit balls today. That was one of them, but it was foul.
You see the difference in balance as Berkman takes his hack at that swing. You see the balance right there. His body was not leaning out that way. Pulled that just foul, but a much better swing than in his last hack.
Well, Weaver just missed. And one thing, if you've watched Jeff Weaver over the years, body language is huge with Jeff Weaver. And he had that kind of old Jeff Weaver glower in at the home plate umpire right there, Randy Marsh. Weaver's really worked on controlling his emotions, not wearing them so outwardly so as to cheese off a home plate umpire.
He's got that Southern California laid back, like a 3-year-old when you tell him no.
Berkman drives it into the corner, and it is fair. Biggio is held at third. Boy, and Weaver is hot. I'm sorry, Steve, go ahead.
This is where some of the Dodger pitchers have gotten in trouble if they don't get the call that they want. Sometimes the next pitch gets hammered. This ball was really smoked off that wall, but Jason Wirth does a great job getting the relay throw into second base. Kent with the relay onto home. We know Biggio runs very, very well. Was unable to score from first base because the ball was hit so hard, and then the relays were outstanding getting back in. You see Weaver out there now trying to regroup. It's something that both he and Derek Lowe have had a little trouble with this season for the Dodgers. Regrouping after either a bad play in the field or a bad call.
Remember, just before the pitch to Berkman that followed, there's a double high up on the wall.
Now, this is where he just has to bear down and try to get out of this inning with, at the very least, just 1 run scored. You have second and third with 1 out here. One of the best hitting players on the Astros at the plate right now.
Infield is in. It is back to the screen. That's exactly what we're talking about.
I really want to see the replay of where the location of this pitch was supposed to be, where Phillips was set up, and where it ended up. Phillips setting up inside. This ball goes down and away. Kind of hooked that fastball. Phillips just wasn't able to react in time to get over there and make the catch.
In Jeff Weaver's 120th inning of the year, Steve, that's his first wild pitch, and it comes immediately after the Berkman double up on the wall. And after the visit from the pitching coach, ostensibly to remind him to keep his focus. That's better. 1-1 the count.
He just went with that sidearm delivery on the wild pitch and hung on to the ball just a little bit too long. Was trying to get in on Ensberg, hooked that fastball, and ended up throwing it into the other batter's box.
Infield stays in. Weaver just missing. But again, that long lingering look in towards the home plate umpire, Randy Marsh.
Biggio coming home knowing this throw is going to be coming right back over his head, is ducking for cover.
Boy, a guy that's been hit by 268 pitches. You'd think he'd go in there, a little more daring.
Yeah, a little jumpy for a guy that's been hit that often, isn't he?
No elbow pad on your neck.
Now that's a player. I mean, Biggio's a guy who clearly made the right decision to play baseball.
Line shot to third. Boy, another well-hit ball, but right to the third baseman Edwards.
Biggio, coming out of high school, had scholarship offers to play football at BC, Penn State, Syracuse. As you look at the line smash right at Edwards. Decided to go to Seton Hall and play baseball instead. It was kind of a funny story. He had a '69 Mustang and his grades weren't all that good. His parents threatened to take the car away if he didn't get good grades at Seton Hall. First semester got something like a 3.6. He said, I had to. It was a cool car.
They talk about having the world set out in front of you. There were a lot of options for Craig Biggio. He was a standout wrestler in high school, too. Mike Lamb jerks it towards the corner. Off the wall, it rings the AmeriQuest bell. And Jeff Weaver has not been able to steer out of that skid.
Check out the swing by Lamb. Nice, easy front foot setup. Look at how quickly he gets himself in position to hit. That's a sinking fastball that just didn't get away far enough from Lamb, and he hammered it.
3-1 Houston. Remember, this all began with a Biggio bloop. Weaver thought he had a third strike on Berkman. It was not called. The next pitch, Berkman hit one off that wall and right. There was a wild pitch, the first all year allowed by Weaver. A line out by Ensberg, and now the double by Lamb. One to Palmeiro. Down the line, fair ball. Weaver to the bag. (3-1) Houston now into the 7th inning. We were talking about Roy Oswalt a little earlier, Steve, and his ability, the amazing ability to get decisions, good or bad, every time he's out there. Looked like maybe this would put it to the test. It was 1-1 heading to the bottom of the 6th, and neither pitcher showing any signs of giving up. Jeff Weaver now pretty fired up. He is down 3-1. And it looks like his day is over. I'm not sure that's why he was upset, maybe upon receiving that news, but there is a pinch hitter out on deck now.
I think mostly he's upset about 2 pitches. The one that didn't get called on Lance Berkman that he thought was strike 3, and then the next one that he threw was actually a pretty good pitch. It was a slider down and in. Berkman went down and got it. It wasn't like he hung it out over the middle of the plate and got smoked.
Oswalt fires it behind Grabowski. So officially Jeff Weaver's day is done now because Ricky Leday, freshly minted off the DL, is coming up to pinch hit. And it was a case today, Steve, where Weaver really for 5 1/3 innings was outstanding. He just had the one mistake to Palmeiro, the home run. Otherwise was pitching quickly and beautifully. But then when Biggio had that bloop fall in, things started to come apart in the 6th inning.
And that's the way it's been for Weaver almost all season long. Just a couple bad luck innings. Another quality start for him. He seems to do that almost every time out for the Dodgers. Just have one inning there where you get a little bit of trouble. 6th inning. The ball that Berkman hit, and then of course Lamb coming up. And that ball was left out over a little bit more than the ball Berkman hit, but tough luck in the 6th.
Leday takes one up the middle. Now, Oswalt, even though he's been piling up the strikeouts and he has not walked a batter yet today, the Dodgers have been hitting him. That's 8 hits now for LA.
Oscar Robles coming to the plate now, who's got 2 hits on the day and has been a tough out ever since he's been in the lineup on an everyday basis. He sees a lot of pitches. He fouls off a lot of pitches. He's getting his hits.
Robles spent 5 years in the Astros system, Steve. He topped out with 3, count them 3, AAA at-bats. From there, back home to Mexico for 5 years, until the Dodgers bought out his contract. Coming up with the Astros, he was stuck behind Julio Lugo and Carlos Guillen. But yeah, as you say, he's been given the chance here with the Dodgers, and he's been doing very well.
Had a great spring with the Dodgers, but had a deal.
There's a base hit to left by Robles.
Had a deal that sent him back to the Mexican League. If he didn't make the Major League club, was hitting .382 in the Mexican League before they purchased his contract and brought him back. And I mean, he's just doing a great job.
Today's trivia question, Steve, brought to you by Capital One, who was the MVP of that 1971 All-Star game that we referenced earlier in Detroit.
The one where Reggie Jackson hit a 9-mile home run.
You'd think it would be Reggie, but
I don't think so.
No, well, you're a very smart man, apparently. Answer coming up soon. 3-1 game for now. Repko takes inside. Oswalt again heading to the All-Star game, which you'll see on Fox on Tuesday. Not a bad performance here. He's got a 3-1 lead, but the Dodgers have 9 hits already.
And Repko's one of those guys who has really struggled against Oswalt so far today. He's struck out 3 times. But Repko has power. He's got 5 home runs. He's a dead pull hitter with his power. This is a great ballpark for a right-handed pull hitter to be thinking. And right now he's ahead in the count 2-0. I think Repko's going to be looking dead red in this situation and try to pull the ball down the left field line.
We'll see if Jim Hickey is thinking along with you here, Steve. He interrupts the proceedings to go out there and talk to Oswalt. Looks like we will get some action for the first time in the Astros bullpen. The pitch count getting up there now. Oswalt was up over 100 through 6 innings. And remember, after Repko, it is Jeff Kent, who is 3 for 3. That is Chad Qualls getting busy out there. If you're just joining us, the Astros grabbed the lead in the bottom of the second on a home run from Orlando Palmeiro. The Dodgers tied it in the 4th on a Hee-Sop Choi triple. Then the Astros got 2 in the 6th, and here we are, top of the 7th. We're laid off the fastball. It is 3-0.
All right, now both pitchers are really having problems with the strike zone. Oswalt wanted that pitch to be called a strike. He didn't like the first pitch that was thrown to Repko that was called a ball. Weaver in last inning had the same concerns.
Repko was 10 for 20 on this road trip, Steve. Today, he has struck out 3 times. But he is in a hitter's count of 3-1 with 2 on. Now it's 3-2.
Well, that's just a nasty pitch. We talked about Oswalt being able to run it up there 95 miles an hour. This is 91, but it's 6. Watch the bottom drop out of this when Repko goes to hit it.
Same pitch and a foul ball this time. Pitch count is getting close to 120 for Oswalt. The first walk allowed by Mr. Oswalt today loads them up for Kent.
And this is going to be a crucial at bat. Oswalt has been working middle in on a lot of the guys, trying to run that sinking fastball in on the hands of the right-handed hitters. Kent loves the ball in. Kent has been a much better opposite field hitter than he ever was in the past, has learned to go the other way, has always struggled with breaking balls down and away from him. But if you throw him anything middle in, he's going to get a good swing at it.
Oswalt against Kent, round 4 will not take place. Kent is 3 for 3 against his former teammate. So Phil Garner is out to get the ball from Oswalt. We'll be back in just a moment. Here for Chad Qualls. He is coming on in relief of Roy Oswalt. He has to face a former Astro, Jeff Kent, who is at the plate with the bases loaded. A 3-1 game in the top of inning 7 here in Houston. Jeff Kent is wearing the number of career grand slams he has in his career, Mr. Lyons. A dozen of them, one this year. What a day he's had today. 3 for 3 yesterday, 2 for 4.
Facing a pretty tough customer in Qualls, who really came into his own down the stretch last year for the Astros, coming out of that pen. I can't imagine Kent will see anything on the inner half of the plate unless it's under his chin. Anything else will be middle away, preferably for the next couple of pitches off of the plate.
Getting away. Ausmus didn't react. The run is in. That was a wild pitch that got the Astros their second run. It is a wild pitch that gets the Dodgers their second run. An appeal on the swing, and first base umpire Larry Vanover said no swing. So now it's 3-2, and the runners move up.
Hard sinker down and away the way Ausmus wanted it, but that ball just took a funny little hop off the thumb of his glove and kicked away from him. I haven't seen 2 wild pitches in the same game that scored a run since my daughter's Little League game about 3 weeks ago.
It's happened here, back-to-back innings. Kent right down the line, it's foul.
Well, once again on the inner half of the plate, I just think you're doing yourself a disservice if you throw anything in to Jeff Kent in this situation. That ball's a ball that he can handle. Pretty good 2-strike swing.
Now the 1-2 again. Got him.
That's outstanding work right there. That's the pitch that they were trying to get him on the wild pitch. And this is the pitch that Kent, like a lot of major leaguers, has a tough time handling. Slider down and away. Tough pitch to reach. Nasty location. Boy, that's pitching right there.
And gets a guy who might have been one of the best clutch hitters that the Astros ever had. Now Jeff Kent is a Dodger, and he could not produce. Although he had done nothing but produce earlier in the game, Steve. 3 for 3 until that at bat. That was the at bat where they needed him. Jason Worth clubs it foul. It is 0-2.
Oh, you think Roy Oswalt isn't sitting in that dugout right now on pins and needles, hoping that Chad Qualls can get him out of this jam.
Still no balls, 2 strikes.
Qualls said one of his most embarrassing moments was last year when they do the whole rookie hazing situation and they steal your clothes and make you wear a different outfit on a road trip somewhere. They took Qualls and Chris Burke's clothes and made him wear Hooters outfits. Qualls at 6'5", 230 doesn't really fit in one of them.
Oh, but he's looking good here. the day, by the way, stays in the game. He'll play right field, part of a double switch. Jason Worth is out. Weaver went 6 innings, Steve, and allowed 5 hits and 3 runs. Oswalt went 6 1/3. He allowed 9 hits, but only 2 runs. One of them scored while he wasn't even on the mound. Once again, Roy Oswalt is in a position to get a decision. That would be 23 games in a row. Vizcaíno, then Osmus, as the Astros bat here in the bottom of the 7th. Again, as we've talked about, Houston's been coming on. They've won 5 of 6, 14 out of 18.
Got the cover boys coming up here for the Astros. Vizcaíno is on the cover of Astros magazine this month. Swinging a golf club.
Which apparently he does very well.
Said he's been on a few of those covers over his long career that he's had. Said this is the one he's most proud of because he's actually being seen doing something outside of baseball, something that he really enjoys, and that's swinging the golf club. And lead-off walk right here.
Osman's coming up next. And we get you back to today's trivia question, brought to you by Capital One, the MVP of the All-Star game in Detroit in '71. Despite the homer on the rooftop, it was not Reggie Jackson. It was Frank Robinson. As you saw during the pregame show, a nice feature done on Frank and the job that he's doing now managing those Washington Nationals. Got to be a manager of the year candidate. That team was supposed to be not so good. Instead, they're winning one-run games seemingly 3 times a week.
I don't think anybody thought that the Washington Nationals would be leading the National League East, one of the most competitive divisions in all of baseball at this point in the season.
Osman showing bunt and then has to duck.
Of course, we talked about the cover boys with Vizcaíno on the cover of the Astros magazine. Osmus in 2003 in the Ultimate Houston magazine was voted best looking Astro.
Hey now.
And the quote was because of his killer smile and killer tush.
Oh, come on.
Bagwell had so much fun with it, he framed the article and hung it in the locker room.
Front view?
I hope.
We're getting you back to Frank Robinson correcting the there was no way they could have won 25 of their last 23. So it is 25 out of 33.
It's pretty good too.
Osman's bunting and it's foul. And well, you make your own comment. You had the camera shot that apparently that magazine wanted to discuss.
I don't know. I think everybody down in the truck was trying to get a good shot of Osmus's tush there, just to show all of Houston and LA what the magazine was talking about.
So uncomfortable in my workplace. 1-1 the count. Osmus, who has never been on the DL, by the way. I mean, a catcher that's gone at it so long. You would think that just once he would get a foul ball off of a thumb, an elbow, something like that would put him out 15 days.
Or maybe pull a glute.
Oh, come on. Give it up. In on the grass at third is Edwards, again guarding against the bunt. Time has slowed to a crawl here during this at bat. Fans are getting a little antsy.
Carrera, one of the more deliberate pitchers on the mound. He's going to take his time out there.
And the bunt is back to Carrera. Wings it over to first. All of a sudden, he had to act in a hurry.
Well, because of the speed of Vizcaino, Carrera thought he might have had a shot of going to second base. This ball bunted right back. Carrera fairly quick off the mound. He's going to take a look at second base. Good form by Osmond, gets it down. Carrera's going to say, oh, let's see if I have a play at second base. But because Vizcaino still runs very, very well, decided not to go down to second and took the out at first.
Adam Everett in the pitcher's spot as the Astros try to get their lead a little bit more here. They're up 3-2 right now. Two teams here, Steve, who have won plenty in the regular season, but not a lot in the regular season the last several years. Both teams have played around .540 baseball the last 10 seasons, but only Houston has won a playoff series during that time. I was on Phil Garner's watch last year. Well, after the fastball, that was something a little different. Curveball coming in there, not even 70 miles an hour.
Big old looping curveball, and Carrera sold it with his delivery. You see a lot of elbows and kneecaps. Hides the ball very well.
Now back with the fastball, it's ripped to the net. The Dodgers, in trailing this game 3-2, Steve, have not been without their chances to score. They have left 8 on base. Have only 1 hit with a runner in scoring position today. They're 1 for 9.
And have done a poor job of moving runners along when they had the opportunity as well. Very few productive outs. Make an out, but move a guy over, get him into scoring position. Does not happen for the Dodgers today.
Everett flicks one back into the crowd. Nice crowd here today. The Astros continue to draw well in this beautiful facility. 37,196 watching this one live in Houston.
Everett's been known basically as a defensive specialist. Career high in home runs is 8. This year he's already got 7. Been taking advantage of that left field wall as well.
Ripped to the left, the base hit. Vizcaino to third. That was a long AB, replete with foul balls all over the place. But on an 0-2 count, finally, Everett straightened one out. It looks like we'll get a pinch runner now for Vizcaino, too. Eric Bruntlets going to go into the game at third. Willie Tavares comes up. Now remember, Tavares has been known to drop down a bunt anytime. Be mindful of that. First and third, one out. We continue to get you ready. Oh, the infield is in. That doesn't always deter Tavares from dropping one down. He's swinging. He punches it to right. And that is plenty deep to cash in Bruntlett. He will scamper in 4-2. I tell you, Steve, I know Tavares doesn't have the RBI numbers of Beltran, the man he's replacing in center field. But he's doing a lot of little things very well. He's close to a 300 hitter. He's moving runners, getting them in.
He's doing whatever he has to do in the situation that he comes up in. Right there is all this calls for is a deep fly ball to get the run in, an insurance run. He goes up there and does the job. He's quickly becoming a very serviceable player, especially in that leadoff position. Understands what he needs to do in order to help his team win.
Craig Biggio, a couple of bloop base hits today, and has tied Barry Bonds on the all-time hit list with that. Obviously, Barry doesn't get a lot of bloops, but Biggio and Bonds each at 2,730.
Bonds isn't getting a lot of hits right now either, bloops or otherwise.
And you see Palmeiro about to get to 3,000. Biggio wants to play long enough to join him. I don't see how Barry Bonds is going to get there. The chase will be for the home runs to get to 756 of those.
And for Hall of Fame status, he won't need 3,000 hits, considering the power numbers that he's been able to put up.
Runner goes. A swing and a miss by Biggio, and the throw is going to be too late. Adam Everett making things happen. He had the pinch hit on an 0-2 count, now a stolen base.
Pretty widely known around the National League that you can run on the Dodgers pitching staff. Phillips behind the plate, making the throw there, unable to get Everett. Most of the time in the big leagues, you'll steal off the pitchers. A lot of them don't slide step, and a lot of them are very deliberate and slow to home plate. Phillips having to scramble on that delivery just to make sure he can knock it down.
By the way, updating Rafael Palmeiro, another base hit. He had the home run earlier today. Now he is up to 29.97. So, you know, maybe before the All-Star break, Rafa gets this done. Another game tomorrow that he will play against Boston, assumably.
Still has one of the prettiest left-handed swings you'll ever see.
On 1-2, Carrera will get Craig Biggio and end the bottom of the 7th inning. It is 4-2 Houston, and now time for our DHL game break. Here's Jeannie and here's Kevin. Fox Saturday Baseball brought to you by DHL, delivering America's pastime on time. And some changes to tell you about here in Houston as we get to the 8th inning. Certainly a new pitcher bears mentioning. That is Russ Springer out there now in what is a 4-2 game. The Astros over the Dodgers today. Phillips, Choi, and Edwards due to come up here against Springer.
Think about Russ Springer this year. Some of the numbers don't look all that respectable with the ERA almost up around 6, but one of the things that he does very well on this team is make some of the younger players feel very comfortable. Talk to some of the young pitchers that have come up, and even some of the young position players, as Adam Everett stays in the game and plays short, and Brunlett will move over to second base. Almost all the young guys will tell you that one of the first guys that comes up to you and tries to make you feel comfortable and tries to acclimate you to a big league life is Russ Springer.
Springer a part of the proceedings last year as the Astros came so close to finally reaching the World Series. They had not ever won a playoff series. They got that out of the way. They beat the Braves in a best-of-5. When they were sitting right there ready to beat back the Cardinals, just couldn't do it. Ground ball to short. Everett got it across, 1 out. Our Gillette Mach 3 Power Players, Major League Baseball's leaders in batting average. What a year for Derek Lee. Let's see, All-Star, 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 All-Star. They're all All-Stars.
Generally, those guys make the All-Star team when you're playing that well. Of course, don't say that to Morgan Ensberg.
No, I mean, and again, you know, you and I talked about it mostly off the year. Every year, somebody is going to be snubbed. I mean, you can't avoid it. And announcers are going to whine about it. That is also unavoidable, apparently. But in the case of Ensberg, it's just kind of one of those deals where it's a shame. You've got other players getting injured. But the way they've got it slotted now is that, for example, if a shortstop gets injured, as Cesar Torres did, you go and get the next best shortstop. So a third baseman's got to get hurt for Ensberg to go.
And nobody hopes that will happen. You know, we talked earlier in the game about how responsible the fans have been this year. More so, I think, than in past years. But Ensberg, who did not have a great year last year, kind of quietly has become the offensive force of this ball club here in Houston. And I don't think a lot of people really knew outside of Houston what he was doing. And he didn't get the votes necessary.
I thought he was snubbed just simply from the list of guys that got snubbed. He was not even on that top 5 that you could vote for as the 32nd man. Not even on the list of possibilities for that final spot.
Dodger fan here in Houston. He voted a few times.
Edwards with a pop into right field. That is that. In the top of the 8th, the Astros pen has been 5 up, 5 down against LA. It stays 4-2. Fox Saturday Baseball brought to you by the Power Stripe from Right Guard. Right Guard, right to the end of the day. By the home style of flavor of KFC Original Recipe Chicken. Bring back dinner at KFC. By Chevy, the new Chevrolet is an American Revolution. And by Radio Shack, you've got questions, we've got answers. Now the Astros trying to build from a 4-2 advantage. Again, Steve, as we've talked about today, the Dodgers short-handed. There's no question that they have had to go at it without all the bullets available to them in their holster. Is that where you keep bullets? I'm not even sure about that. But today they've competed. They've gotten 9 hits. Really hung in there against an all-star starter, Roy Oswalt. But they just couldn't get the big base hit, and they're down 4-2. Duander Sanchez taking over on the mound.
Well, people that follow the Dodgers on an everyday basis will tell you that this team goes out and competes every day, even with the lack of star power in their lineup. I mean, they've gone out there and been in these games night in and night out. They've sort of been in a situation where they're playing just well enough to lose. Last night's ball game, I think, a classic example against Roger Clemens.
Berkman skies it, and Choi will make the catch. The Dodgers are doing their best to compete, though. And Steve, you see them on obviously more of an everyday basis than I do. But I've got a lot of respect for Jim Tracy and how he's gone at it here. It is a difficult thing if you're Jim Tracy to try and figure out a way to get a representative team out there on the field.
Yeah, you're trying to find 9 guys that can run out there and play for you, but they have done that. I think the organization is very proud of the guys that have gone out and played hard for them. And as we talked earlier, some of these guys getting their first opportunity to go out and play in the major leagues and try to make a name for themselves to see how deep this organization is. Like last night, they go up against Roger Clemens. They're beating them into the 8th. They lose the game in the 9th. Today's ball game, very competitive against Roy Oswalt. And towards the end of the game is when things start to go wrong and you start to lose your leads. But winning those 1- and 2-run ball games is what the Dodgers have had a tough time doing lately.
You know, it's interesting, too, when Tommy Lasorda was the manager of the Dodgers, and he had very few teams that obviously were pieced together like this one is, but Tommy had the kind of personality, still does, where he could take some of the focus off of the team and bring it onto himself. Jim Tracy, by comparison, I mean, he is not about self-promotion at all. I love Tommy Lasorda. Most everyone does. But with Jim Tracy, I mean, he's just a guy that goes about his business calmly, resolutely. He is who he is. And because he kind of blends into the background a little bit, maybe the players do get more of the focus on them. Back to the net it goes from Ensberg. Again, we remind you, if you've got an opinion on who you think will be the All-Star Game MVP, you will go to foxsports.com, keyword Chevy, or MLB.com to vote for your chance to win trips, gear, or even a car in the 9-in-9 sweepstakes presented by Chevrolet.
I think one of the best attributes that Jim Tracy has as a manager is his ability to protect some of his players, not necessarily through the media, but on the field itself.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Ensberg strikes out. Jim Tracy is an island of tranquility in those always turbulent Dodger waters. I think the players appreciate that. They notice it.
They very much appreciate it, and they understand that he puts a lot of the younger players in positions to succeed, but he's in an awkward situation right now because he has no choice but to run some guys out there right now that may not succeed as readily as they would if he could protect them a little bit. If he had other guys to mix and match. Now he's throwing a lot of rookies into the lineup that he'd like to maybe play against certain guys, not play against others. But he's forced to run them out there every day now.
Mike Lamb down the line. That is a foul ball. He kept one of those fair last time up. Now the bottom line for the Dodgers right now, and you've got 5 of the 8 position players that were in your opening day lineup now on the DL. And Jeff Kent day-to-day with a bad hammy. Gagne out, starting pitchers out. You are, if you're the manager, you are up against it. Pass him out here. Another 0-2 base hit in this game. Mike Lamb now 2 for 4. Orlando Palmeiro coming up.
And I think a classic example of what we were talking about with Jim Tracy and the Dodgers and what he's had to do, Josh, is, you know, Jason Repko in today's ball game has struggled a little bit. Finally got that last walk in his last at bat, but had struck out 3 times against Roy Oswalt. Probably would not have been in this game if Ricky Leday was healthy. Leday would have made that start. He just came off the DL. They're trying to work him back into the lineup. But you protect Jason Repko by keeping him out of a ball game against a guy like Roy Oswalt, who's going to have his way with you, and then get you in there against a guy that you may have a little bit better success, and let Ricky Leday, a veteran player, go in and have the start against a guy like Oswalt. As we said, Leday is in the game. Did not start today because they're trying to ease him back in after coming off the DL.
You saw Brad Lidge getting ready in the bullpen. He is headed to the All-Star game as well. Orlando Palmeiro started the scoring today. Had a home run back in the 2nd inning.
Now you watch Brad Lidge come in and pitch. It's just a treat to watch this guy go about his business, quickly becoming one of the more dominant closers in the game. Last night did not have his great slider and still dominated.
Now the Dodgers in the 9th inning will have 8-9-1 in the order coming up, trying to get it set for perhaps Jeff Kent. Ground ball squirts over to 3rd, and Palmeiro is out. So are the Astros. Now they head to the 9th with a chance to beat the Dodgers again. It is 4-2. Brad Lidge is on to try and cement it here for Houston. It is 4-2 in the 9th, and Jason Grabowski to the plate for LA. Now Lidge has pronounced himself healthy, ready for this challenge here, ready for the All-Star game in Detroit. You'll see that on Fox, of course, on Tuesday. Grabowski slugs this one in the right center field, but Tavares on the move, locks it up. Lidge trying to lock up the ball game here, Mr. Lyons, trying to make a winner of Roy Oswalt again.
All right, look at the numbers again for Lidge. 18 saves, outstanding numbers again. This guy just has electric stuff. Mid to upper 90s fastball with a slider that's unhittable when he's throwing it right. He's had a little bit of arm and forearm trouble recently, but now says he's fine, and those 95-mile-an-hour fastballs pretty much say the same thing, don't they?
Yeah, you see the defensive changes here. Jason Lane into play right field, Berkman now at first, and Palmeiro now in left. Ricky Leday is up in the count 2-0. If indeed Roy Oswalt wins it, he goes to 12-7, Steve. The ERA will stay right around 2.5 for the year. And you can say that is a very deserving trip to the All-Star game. 95-mile-an-hour fastball missed. It is 3-1.
Oh, he wouldn't have been in the All-Star game if we didn't have that one kid that voted for him 5 times that we saw on the fan cam earlier today.
Very high fly ball into foul ground. There's Berkman, and he's out of room. Dodger fan got it.
The Astros fans are booing him.
He's popping his jersey. J.D. Drew fan.
You better be careful.
You know what, though? That's good that there are Dodger fans who are still proud to wear it.
That's
right now.
Hey, he got the ball, too.
Down too low. So the tying man is coming up. Brad Lidge, not a guy that surrenders a lot of home runs. He will take on Oscar Robles, who, as we've talked about, Steve, tried his best to be a Houston Astros big leaguer, never did make it. And now he's got a chance against the Astros.
Robles has no home runs on the season, but a very pesky hitter.
Well, the fastball's been about 93 to 95 from Lidge. We've talked about him pronouncing himself healthy. Maybe not entirely so, though. 98 would tell you he's where he needs to be. On the command, a little slip shot right now. On deck is Repko. Or actually, check that. Looks like Olmedo Saenz has come out in place of Repko. He went. That's the slider that is always the equalizer for Brad Lidge.
Throw your fastball mid-90s, your slider at about 83 to 85 miles an hour. Watch Robles just buckle on that thing. I mean, there are very few sliders that seem to break straight down, and that's what Lidge's does, especially when he's on. No chance.
2 down, 9th inning. The Chevrolet player of the game, Steve, is Roy Oswalt. Looking to go to 12-7. And in recognition of Roy, Chevrolet makes a $1,000 contribution to the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, Chevy, and American Revolution. Boy, he'll go to 9-1 at home. That is if Lidge can take care of the pinch hitter, Olmedo Saenz.
9-1 with an ERA of 2 at home. Pretty impressive.
As you said, this is a ballpark that is threatened to swallow pitchers whole if they're not careful. Oswalt is fearless. He says, hey, you're not going to hit my stuff anyway. I don't care.
Doesn't matter where you pitch when you have that kind of stuff.
The slider, 1-1.
Olmedo Saenz has had A very nice year for the Dodgers, getting a lot more playing time. Already has more at-bats this season than he did all of last year. Forced into action like a number of Dodgers, but he has been a very good pinch hitter with some pop.
That ball blocked. Now scampering down to second base on the wild pitch.
Osmus looked like he blocked that one with his face mask. Watch the ball hop up. Point. Right up the noggin.
What's interesting here, Steve, is if Signs can reach, Jeff Kent would bat. And don't you know he'd love that chance here in Houston. Signs has got to figure out a way to touch that slider, though, to get Kent up there. It is 2-2.
That's what makes Lidge so tough is you have to gear up to try to get on top of and catch up with the fastball. Then when you throw that slider, you're just all the way out on your front foot. You have no balance. And you've got nothing left to hit the ball.
On the ground. Everett cross diamond for the ball game. One All-Star saves it for the other All-Star, and Jeff Kent never does get a chance to bat. The Astros go from 15-30 to being a 500 ball club. The Astros beat the Dodgers 4-2. Jeannie Velasco coming up after these messages.